Welcome, my friends. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham, and I'm in the country of Colombia. I'm no longer going to tell anybody specifically where I'm at because I don't want to destroy the world. Okay, I don't want to I don't want to be contributing to the destruction of the cultures of the planet. Okay, but today I'm going to talk about a philosophy of questions. Okay, and I'm going to write a book about different things. And I decided not to explain to people how to live abroad. That is destroying the planet. Okay, even though I know a lot about it, I'm not going to write about this because it's just not making the world a better place. Okay, but I do want to make the world a better place, and I'm going to tell you a funny thing. So I tell myself constantly to start out with a funny story, then I don't do it. Okay. But when I go to Togo, West Africa, what's interesting about Togo, or maybe Ghana, probably all these countries too here, I might have to, yeah, it's going to be difficult to not give exact locations where I'm at. But it's to make the world a better place so that you don't go to that specific locations. Okay, because people don't go generally to countries, they go to specific locations for a specific reason. Okay, and they're not really like me culturally interested in everything, they're only interested in specific stuff. But when I go to Africa, what's funny, um, the culture of Africa is quite simple, and they're good people. And on the other side is they don't do this kind of German culture thing where they go question, 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 question. Lucky if anybody asks four particular questions in a row. And I always say I have people say, well, why don't you go ask these people about their question? I said, I only got four questions. And they go, what? Four questions before they're frustrated. It's like a mother, okay, or a father, and you got this child. Like I will never ever tell a kid because my mother and father go, Andy, because. And they wouldn't lie to me. They would just say they wouldn't say, Andy, I'm not going to answer any more questions. They would just say because. And I finally realized that when they said because, that was meant that they were tired and they weren't going to answer any more questions or going to try to answer any questions. And they didn't have the answers to all my questions. But when I'm in Africa, I literally will sit there and I know that when I walk into, say, a hardware, I only have four questions before the person goes, buy it or get out of here. Okay. They don't say that either, but they really do not care to explain their products. Zero. And you think that these countries are poor, but they won't. The poor countries are the least likely to try to force you to stick. In India, yeah, they'll sit there and talk to you blue in the face. More like, you ought to buy this, it's cheap. Buy this. I told the guy the other day in Guatemala or something like that, I said, will one of you just say this is way too expensive? They always will say, oh, this is a great deal. And I said, I have yet to hear anybody in any of these countries say, this is overpriced, but it's the only one we got, so we're going to sell it at this price. Okay, they don't do that. But in Togo, it's kind of funny because they get really angry. Okay, it's like, get out of here. Stop asking questions. But often anymore, what's interesting is you walk into stores, and you always think that these stores would be smart and whatever, but everybody's on their smartphone. And when you interrupt them on their smartphone, I literally was talking to Santiago today. I said, I hate when I go into a hotel and the person's on their smartphone and you can't get them off the smartphone so they can show you the room. And it's become a pandemic. I mean, this is a problem everywhere on the planet because people don't really care that they have their job. They're not, see, the owners of most businesses in the developing world or the mass of the 200 normal countries, there's an overabundance of employees and there's an overabundance of jobs, and they can always get another one. Okay, and contrary to what you think, they're not getting paid enough that they're worried about losing the job. Okay, so when you got a bunch of people that are just subsistence type money. See, the ideal thing for an employer is to pay somebody twice as much money as they're worth. Okay. And then I did this with my one person that worked for me in real estate. I gave him about double what he could earn at a normal job. and because he had a lot of little situations that were making it difficult for them to employ. And so by paying him double, he was very grateful for the job because he knew he couldn't just go get another job. And but on these, when I walk into anywhere here in any country I'm in, most any country, the 200 normal countries, um, they don't care whether they service you or not. They don't care whether they make money. They don't care whether you're happy. They don't care about anything. It's highly unusual when you have just naturally good people like where I'm at right now that really just want you to be happy. Okay, and that's highly unusual. Okay, like when I was on Lake Athlon, the people working in the stores didn't give a crap. Okay, they didn't care whether I was happy or unhappy. Okay, 1 in 10, yes, but the other 9, they'd be sitting on the smartphone. You'd say, "I'm sorry for interrupting you while you're on your smartphone." But in another problem is people that ask questions irritate people because all they really want to do is make money. They don't want to sit around trying to think. They don't need money. Okay, it's called the resource curse. Okay, contrary to what you think, most of the really poor countries are, which is 200 countries, have an overabundance of resources and an overabundance of easy ways to make enough living. And because they're not going to freeze to death in the dark, right? They're not in a cold place. If they lose their job, they don't care. Okay, so it's it's absolutely counterintuitive. You think that they're not making much money, they'd want to make money. No, they don't really care about making money because you're not, you can go sleep in the street and you'd be okay, right? And there's not really expensive. Uh, a person can earn in one day a whole month's rent. Happens all the time, and that's the way I like it too. I like to know that I can earn what it costs for me to live within my means is so simple that it's ridiculous. But people get real angry when they're asked a bunch of questions that they consider wasting their time. Okay, and right there is the ultimate thing: is don't waste my time, just buy it. But in the United States, we encourage people to explain and talk about products, and a lot of people are, which is good. Is what you want is a person that's selling cars to be absolutely in love with cars, okay, and you want somebody selling saddles to be absolutely in love. And this is when it's fun, is when you got a tradesman that is really working at what their trade is. Unfortunately, probably 50 to 80% of the population is not working at a trade where they have pride in what they're doing. Do you, I mean, is the girl working at, the lingerie shop, is she proud of what she's selling? Okay, hopefully so. But when a person is not proud of what they're doing, they don't really want many questions, right? And philosophy is the ancient Greek term for the love of wisdom. Okay, a philosopher, in my opinion, seeks, learns, and abides by the truth. Okay, so the whole goal of a question in a philosophical way is for wisdom and to find and seek the truth. Now, that's the hilarious part because when I go into a place in Africa, they get angry because the truth is they just want you to buy it. Okay, they don't want anything more. And sometimes I study a thing for a long time before I start talking because I know I only have 4 questions before they're frustrated. And then those 4 questions are normally going to be about on negotiations. And they like to do that, but they don't like to talk and explain the product. Of course, on the other side is a lot of times people don't know anything about the products they're selling. Okay, but everybody will answer questions until their patience gets weak and they lose it. So in a philosophy of question, when you're sitting around asking questions, there's a goal. Okay, and this is what I was writing about. It's enjoyable to ask questions that people answer. I like to ask questions that people answer. This is the nature of friendship. People that like to answer the questions, you start having a friendship. And a good conversation makes life a pleasure. Okay, a good, fun conversation is it. However, answering emotional vampires who make us feel weaker, tired, and depleted of energy is of little value. I mean, there's people that ask so many questions that you just go, gee whiz, you know. But some people ask questions with an agenda, and this is the wrong way to ask a question. When somebody's asking a question to like make you feel stupid, or they try to influence you to agree with them or something like that, instead of trying to sit there and say, how can we agree and how can we make the world a better place, or how can we share intelligence, that's not the goal of people. 19 out of 20 people are doing things in a way to either elevate their status or lower their status, or do whatever they want to do. Some people want to be low status so that you feel sorry for them, so you buy from them. Okay. There's all sorts of reasons why people talk. It's never, ever. And to actually believe that I could explain a philosophy of questions that would ever, cover the topic. I'm going to give you the point that I want to make. And the point is, when you're talking to somebody, let's see, as a rule, children ask questions correctly, simple and easily answered, with smiles and curious looks on their faces. And as a second rule, if you don't see a curious, happy-looking face, it is best to turn around and walk away and return another day, because after we learn the way, ask questions that pay. Okay, I was making a rhyme out of this, but when you see a kid, they ask questions in a very simple, curious way, and they're simple enough and they're fun enough that people laugh and they answer them, and we go back and forth, and you can have fun with the question, and then the person being answering the question is laughing and enjoying. And when you're asking a question and the person on the other side doesn't have a curious, happy look on their face, you need to walk away. Why? Because this person, doesn't matter why, okay, is not enjoying what they do. And I very much believe that you don't really make much progress in life talking to people that are not enjoying talking to you back. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a very inquisitive person, so I can drive everybody crazy. Okay, first thing I do when I got a girlfriend is say, "Tell me to go screw myself, Andy. Andy, go screw yourself." I said, "Okay, now reposition it. Andy, I am tired of listening to you. Go in the other room." Okay. And I always make the joke that my mother had this signal. She'd go like this and go upstairs and stop asking questions. And I had learned with my mother too many questions, and she was like, I'm watching The Young and Restless. Stop this. You're interrupting my thinking. I'm reading my book. I really don't need to sit around and answer questions, because you really know that you're asking questions, Andy, that I can't answer. Okay. And the goal is to answer questions that the person can answer, that is capable. Don't try to ask a question to a person that is incapable of answering it. That is just a power play. And so when all you got to do is look at the body language. If the body language says, "Yeah, I'm having a good time," then you're on the right thing. If you got to start getting a look like, "Oh, this is disgusting," or "You're taking up my time," or whatever, we're not asking person a question. You're not talking to people that are wanting to make my world and their world a better place. You're talking to a person that really has no desire to be curious, whatever. And what they're talking about or why we're talking is the wrong reason. So you got people that are the right reason. So as a rule, I'm only talking the whole day long with people that are sort of jovial, laughing, and having a good time. Whenever this person gives me the tone of voice that it's annoying or something like that, or they're giving me that look away or the body languages, I walk away. I mean, some people are very happy to talk for things. When you have communication, the way communication works is people are normally happy people, and they got an 8-point thing. Hello, how are you? Fine. What's up? How's the weather? Goodbye. See you later. Yes, it's like 8 points. You can count the number of conversations. And when it goes longer, people get angry. They want to just be cordial. They don't want to go into conversations. But this is the art of asking questions. A philosophy of asking question is for us to learn. And it's to inquire and understand something, and for thousands of reasons why. Okay, the motivation is not really important. Why a person's asking a question. Some people look at me and go, "Why are you asking?" And I instantly go away, because that's the opposite of intelligence. That's to act like they want to read my mind, and they're only going to answer the question if if it agrees with what they care about. They don't really care about the truth. That is the opposite of a philosopher. You care about, okay, if the person is of the wrong social status, if the person is not clean, if the person is not, I don't know, talking in an articulate way, if they don't have a degree or whatever, they're not going to answer. I write emails to people all the time and they don't reply back, because I know that they don't think I'm famous enough to be answering the question. That's a very anti-intellectual person, because you can learn from anybody. Absolutely everybody has information that you can learn from. And so there is a level there where you got to qualify the people you're talking to. So it's tough, because somebody writes you and you're sort of intriguing. You go, okay, how much time do I devote to this person before I feel like I'm wasting my time? Now, if somebody's giving you attaboys and they say wonderful, wonderful, yeah, they're not. They're just trying to patronize you, and I don't really care about that kind of stuff, because it's almost like, I think you say you're nice and you're smart too many times, and you're just trying to tell me platitudes like I need that attention. Okay, and a lot of people do need that attention, but as a rule, I pay for conversations by listening. Okay, I have learned that people will answer simple questions, 3 simple questions, really pretty easy. And then I listen. After 10 to 20 minutes of listening, I may ask another question. So you can get almost anybody to talk about themselves. How to Win Friends and Influence People by what is his name? The book. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but he basically tries to say, get people to talk about themselves. When I talk to almost everybody, I got a little thing in Google Keeps where I have little memory cues next to name, and I got every single person I meet in there, and I try to, it doesn't matter who, I try to remember their name, and I try to remember something that would, so I can refer back to and say, oh, that guy's name is Luis Fernando, or this guy's Santiago, or this girl's name's Vivian, and she works at the pharmacy. And I can go through the whole list of different things, and I can have something that reminds me. And I'm always wondering why the cell phones and the contact systems don't have a thing, the memory cues, right? That we can search through. The memory things. They don't really do it. I have to write a really long thing next to their name and say, this person I met in this country, in this city, and this is why we're talking. Okay, but I have learned that if I listen, I can get people to talk. If I use their name, they love to hear their name. That's the Andrew Carnegie, that was his name. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, I wrote a book that was 25 Pocket Guide to Meeting New People. How to Make Complete Strangers into Friends by Andy Lee Graham. So you can search for Andy Lee Graham. It's a really simple book. I mean, people are going to get angry all the time because it's radically too simple, but it is because 98% of people just don't know how to open a conversation. Now, Andrew Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was about after the conversation's already open. He left this chapter out. He assumed that everybody's already talking. Well, if you're already talking, a lot of people can keep the thing. But when you start asking questions, and it's to look at their face, look at their body language, and if they're smiling and they're being curious, you got them in the flow. And that's the object of asking questions, is to get in that flow, in that free flow, never-ending conversation. I often laugh when somebody talks with me for 2 or 3 hours on the phone and they go, we've been talking 2 hours. And I said, why do you feel guilty for talking 2 or 3 hours? I have no clue. To me, it's like, that is the goal of conversations, is to talk for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I ask, how often do you want to talk to your wife for 2 hours? They go, never. And I go, well, that's kind of sad. If you don't like to sit around and talk, I told this girl I was dating last year, I said, the point is you like the image of me, you don't actually like to listen to me. Okay, you like when I listen to you, but you don't like to listen to me. I said, the truth is you just have no desire to hear what I have to say. And I said, but you like the image of who I am, that fits in with your category. And I says, when love happens, it's when two people like to listen to the other person. They don't really care what they're talking about. They just like to listen to each other. And they get a smile on their face, just rosy colored feeling. But you could pay to get somebody to talk to you and answer your questions if you listen. It's a trade-off in proportion to how many. Some people you have to listen to an hour. I was talking to this one politician, and I got off the phone, and I always laugh because I said, "Man, this guy was a Democrat," and I said, "I had this guy talk for an hour to me, and he has no idea that I voted for Donald Trump." And I go, politicians should not be able. You shouldn't be able to do that to a politician, but politicians like to talk just like any other person. And when they feel safe, they will talk. And so the goal of a conversation is to make the person feel safe. Okay, so answering questions, so as simple as you get, you look at their body language and you make them feel safe, and you don't try to hurt them. And amazing how many people are asking questions really with an agenda to hurt somebody or take advantage or either make them look. Most of the time when people are talking, they're trying to make the other person feel lesser than. Okay, that was the 14th step. I made a video about that. Never say or do anything that would make a person feel weak. I added this to the 12 steps of AA. The 13th step is carrying the message to another alcoholic of the opposite sex. That's a joke, right? So you can't be 13th stepping anybody. But 14th step is, my opinion, is never say or do anything that make another person feel weak. And this is the art of questions. How to have a question that is productive. So if you can get a person into this free flow talking, you can get them to talk for a long time by continually bringing up things that they have of interest. Okay, so I was talking to a gentleman yesterday on the phone, and he said there's this Fryman physicist guy said that everybody has 10 things that they're really like researching or working on or thinking about. And that's true. And they also have 10 things, and to add to that, they have 10 things that are like personal problems that you got to kind of worry about. These personal problems block them from learning, and the 10 things about are the things they want to really care about. And on the other side is to really make a person happy. I always laughed when I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I said, I'm not sitting around talking about buzzwords and things like that. I'm introducing all the men to women. Great way to get friends and influence people. All you got to do is just introduce them. So I'm always in my life introducing people to other people. That's why I like to know names, because I then can introduce them to other people. And then they really like me because whenever I'm with Andy, I get to meet a lot of people. They used to, when I had a real estate company, my workers would pay for me to go to Columbia Street West to have lunch. And I go, why do you guys want to pay for my lunch? He says, well, if I go in there, I'll get to meet the mayor, the building commissioner, I'll get to meet these people, and I get to meet all these people. And I go, okay, that makes sense. And the goal of a conversation is to expand the conversation into, contrary to what you think, people love people, absolutely love people. And I wrote about that. I was talking about that yesterday. The first cut is the deepest. Rod Stewart sang that song. And people are so traumatized that they won't, I can learn to love again. And they will never try again. And they always got this, stay away from me, you might hurt me. And there's damaged people, okay? And by the time, when they're children, they're not damaged, okay? Not very many, but there are extremely abused children. But if you got a happy-go-lucky kid, that's the goal, to be the whole life through. You're supposed to be just a happy-go-lucky kid and get over and resolve your angers. If you're not walking around laughing and joking, I want to say, you as an abused kid, I could see John Belushi or Jim Belushi, the Belushi brothers, hey, he goes, how much for your wife? You know, joking. Everybody has to joke. If they don't want to joke, they're having kind of personal problems. Okay, so back to the philosophy of travel. The philosophy of questions is, first of all, are they in sync with you? Are they smiling and body language is, going back and forth in a good way? Are they acting like a curious kid? And are you willing to be patient enough to pay by listening? If you're not willing to listen to questions, you're not really wanting the person. See, a person will talk themselves into sanity. That's when you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, you go to Overweights Anonymous, or I don't know, any self-help group. What they do is they try to get the person to talk until they become sane. Okay, because when they take their subconscious thoughts and put them into the light of day, the Bible talks about it. You make them what is of good is in the light. Things of the dark are in the dark. People that are dark are in the dark. But if you get them first to flow and be happy, then you can ask questions. And then you pay for more questions by listening. And when a person lies to you when you're answering questions, simple questions, what do? Well, simple. If a person's willing to lie to you, maybe you made them feel unsafe. But if they're happy and they're lying to you, you should erase them. Okay, you ghost them. You do whatever these terms you want. You don't try to hurt them. You don't cancel them. That's ridiculous. But you, why would you talk to anybody that is not a functional person, that doesn't see that a conversation is an exchange of truths? Why would you talk to that person? I mean, people sit there and they talk about the lies that their husband or wife said, and I go, you guys have no clue, do you? Okay. I mean, and when they're talking in a contemptuous, cynical, sarcastic way, why are you talking to each other? Because they're hooked together by people get a rush by arguing each other. It's a dysfunctional conversation. But to ask questions that are productive and making a person, you can make people very happy just by listening. I don't know how many people tell me, Andy, you're really a nice person. You really, I said, no, I'm really just a great listener and I don't have to be talking to enjoy life. But everybody has a story, and from the rich to the poor, it's the rich that have the most problems because they have the most to lose in a lot of ways. The rich people, in my opinion, when the wealthier a person is, the really, really super rich are really open, but the wannabe rich are really protected. So I'll never forget the richest people in Fort Wayne, Indiana were the easiest ones to get along with. And that's the reason why, is because they talked to everybody and they had a good time. And they made life simple and they were very charismatic. But the people that wanted to be rich, that really had everything to hide and were sneaking, conniving, whatever, they would get real angry if you asked a question, because you might expose them for who they really are. Okay, but be proud of who you are, and the reason to talk to somebody and ask questions is to learn. If the reason is because you want to make money off of them, you're just a selfish person. Okay, people that only ask questions when they can make money, or maybe they're going to buy something, but they only talk to other people because they get something. That is a greedy person. That is a selfish person. But if a person refuses to answer questions, they have very little value in the world. It's just a fact of life. But the person that's controlling a conversation is actually the one asking questions. And I have trouble because sometimes I ask too many questions and I know that I'm controlling the conversation. On the other side is some people are so angry that you try to keep asking a question on something else. But I don't ask, if somebody says something really negative and off the wall, conspiracy theory, I don't say much. I just ask a question and I go to something else. It's not that I'm deflecting. I just know that it doesn't, no reason to enable this person to be an angry person. So the philosophy of questions is, first, watch their body language. Are we in sync? Are we going back and forth? Are we smiling like children? And then, if you want more questions to answer, you want to learn from somebody, you got to listen. That's all it is. That's all there is to the philosophy of questions. And I'll go on and on. I'm going to answer things like I'm going to talk about the philosophy of answers. But I realized I started to write about the philosophy of answers, and I realized, I got to start out with the question first. You can't have an answer unless you know how to ask a question. But life is good, okay? And it gets better all the time if you're always seeing those smiles on people's faces. And you can talk to almost anybody if you're willing to ask questions that are not self-serving, but more or less real and authentic. And it's very tough in this world because the world has become a very, very dangerous place because people have learned that they can become famous by attacking another person. Anybody that attacks another person isn't good. I'm not proud of President Trump, and I'm not proud of President Biden because they both spend their whole time in the attack phase. It's better to just talk in the, how to make the world a better place. But on the other side it's war. Okay, politics is a type of war, and you do want the president to be able to conquer the world. Okay, poor old Biden, he's not even in the game anymore, right? Okay, I'm here and you're not, why not? Andy Lee Graham, I'm talking about the philosophy of different subjects. I will only talk with people that are Patreon supporters or my long-term friends. Sometimes I'll talk to somebody if they ask a really great question. But this idea of me talking about where I'm at and helping to destroy the world, put up, what's that song? It was about take paradise and turn it into a parking lot. And that is, unfortunately, I feel kind of guilty that I did that. Okay? I'm feeling kind of guilty that I have brought absolutely insane people into other countries. And I can honestly say that I have very few people that I am proud that I got to know. And that's sad. I do have 2 or 3, but for the most part, I never want to see a lot of these people that ever came and visited me. They're not the right people, and that is painful. But if you want to be one of the right people, become a Patreon, and that gives me, you're meeting me halfway, and you're also saying, Andy, we think the life that you're living is worth sharing, okay? And life is good. And I try to make people smile, and I got a thing I call it crack in the face. That's when you got this stone look in their face like the Chinese. And they can really give you the blank. But when you got a person that's really giving you the tough look, like they're either scared of you or they're just really are snobs, right? Try to break their face into a smile. It's kind of fun. It's a thing. My book is, if you want to just support me in an indirect way, you can buy a couple of my books. I got one book about the photo book, and I got another book about thing. And you can get on there and buy the book and give me a really bad review because I don't really care. But how to meet, pocket book on how to meet thing has 25 ways to open a conversation, and a lot of them don't. Is just by going to the situation that conversations automatically open. Just search for books by Andy Lee Graham. Life goes on. But I'm here and you're not. Why not? It's because I'm happy and I can open conversations and I can ask questions. Simple.